It's the Royal Oak Show with Carlo Ginotti. Tonight's guest, Royal Oak author Joe Bastian, and photographer Robert Bruce. And now, Carlo Ginotti.
Yeah, thank you. Boy, I see all these familiar faces out there. Thanks for coming back to the show tonight. So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Royal Oak Show, and I'm still the host. I'm still Carlo Ginotti. Andy, Aubrey, Andy, you feel spring in the air?
I'm feeling it, man.
I've got this
purple shirt going today, and the summer, the sun, it's right around the corner, Carlo. I can feel it.
I've got spring fever pretty badly right now. In fact, the other day I was doing some yard work, and as the mounds of snow and the piles of ice are starting to recede, I'm finding all kind of goofy things in the backyard. I found some basketball. I found a frisbee, the pet that we've lost all winter. But you know, Andy, in Royal Oak, we are having some bigger problems. You know that big mound at Woodward and 13 Mile at the Northwood Shopping Center. You know the big mound?
The ski hill, right?
That's starting to recede, and I heard over the weekend they found a half a dozen people in lawn chairs from last Dream Cruise. So I'm serious. I wouldn't lie to you, Andy.
I know. Hey, you're a city commissioner. I know.
All right, well, we do have a great show for you tonight. We've got two people in Royal Oak. This is going to be kind of the artistic show tonight. We've got two residents of Royal Oak. We've got Joe Bastian, a published author, and we've got Robert Bruce from Robert Bruce Photography, who is here tonight and tell us a little bit about what we have. Andy, in the meantime, tell us what's going around in our beautiful city.
.com for links to many fine organizations around Royal Oak. Back to you, my friend.
Thank you, Andy. And after the show, you're going to give me that phone number once again,
yes,
right?
Yes, indeed. I will get that to you off the air.
All right. Well, thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, our first guest tonight, you know him as just plain old Joe. We know him as Joe Bastian. But what you don't know about Mr. Bastian, or Joe as he's known to us, is that he is a published author. He's a resident of Royal Oak, and he's got about 5 books out there floating around, from children's books to cookbooks to one of his most recent books we're going to talk about in just a little while. With that introduction, I want to introduce to you again my friend Joe Bastian. Hey, Joe. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
I didn't embarrass you with that introduction at all, did I?
No.
All right. Well, there's a side of you that we've been friends for a while, and our kids play on the same basketball team.
Mm-hmm.
But what I didn't know about you until recently was that you are, in fact, a published author of at least 5 books. Is that correct?
That I am.
All right, you've got, before we get into your book here, what are some of the other books that you've published?
2 children's books. One's a Halloween book. The other's a Thanksgiving book. A German cookbook. My grandfather ran a German restaurant in New York, where my parents came from. So
now this is a cookbook that's written in German, or is it?
No, it's German recipes from the restaurant.
I was just teasing you, by the way. It's with German recipes. Is that?
Yeah.
Okay.
From the restaurant, yeah.
And are these your grandfather's recipes?
Yes.
Okay. What are some of the other books you've got out there?
I actually put together a book of poetry, which is called Somewhere in Middle America, and it's really about the Middle American mindset, and a lot of it's, there's even images in there of Royal Oak. And
this is a great book. I know I get a free copy of it, correct?
Yes.
But I was thumbing through it.
That was in the contract.
That was in the contract, too. Everything, the host gets everything for free. I'm going to show the people the cover of this book, and it's Somewhere in Middle America. And it is a book of poetry, and it has, as you said, signposts along Royal Oak. Joe, you're from Royal Oak, right? I mean, you lived and raised here all your life, correct?
Yes, sir.
And you came from a rather small family, right?
Yeah, just 11.
You're 11. You were so you have a lot of experiences with different things along those ways, right?
Well, yeah, I'm the 9th out of 11, so I got to see a lot before I really had to go out there and do anything. By the time I came along, my parents were like, "There's nothing you can do that we haven't seen already." So.
Yeah, but I'm sure you tested them once in a while, right?
Of course, you have to do that.
Now, you went to Royal Oak schools, correct?
Yep.
And you graduated from what used to be called?
Dondero.
Dondero, yeah. I won't ask you when you graduated, but
thank you.
It's a long time ago. Right. Now, in writing these books, and I want to get to my favorite book in just a moment, but in writing these books, you do draw upon your experiences as from your family as well as Royal Oak. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah, it really is. I've always found Royal Oak to be a nice mix of, I mean, really it has its own culture. and all the people that I've experienced, and I've just drawn from that, and having been here for more than 30 years.
30 plus years.
30 plus years. There's a lot to draw from. I mean, even in my lifetime, I've seen there's been so much change in this area, but at the same time, there's a lot that remains constant in Royal Oak, and a lot of that's the culture.
And you have the children's books there. I see here that one is about a Halloween book. Is that?
Yeah, actually, the hook in that is the book is called Next Halloween, and the book actually begins the day after Halloween. And the motivation for that was when my kids would come back after trick-or-treating and dump all the candy on the floor, and of course I had to be quality control.
Yes,
but,
of course. Every third piece you had to test, yes.
That's right.
That's what my dad used to do, too. He's sitting out there, too, and he knows what I'm talking about. So, but go ahead.
And the thought behind that was they would talk about all the costumes that they saw that night, and so they would start planning for the next year. And of course, throughout the year, their costume choices would change even up to the last minute. So that's kind of what the book is about, is choosing your costume and making those last minute changes and decisions.
How many kids do you have?
4.
4 kids. You're going to follow the suit with about 6 or 7 more?
No, there's 33 grandkids right now, so I think 4's good. 4's the modern 8.
Oh, that's and that's good for us. Joe, hold that thought for just a second. We're going to be right back with Joe Bastian. We're going to take a little break. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with the Royal Oak Show. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. We have Joe Bastian, a published author, living amongst us here in Royal Oak, and we're going to talk about his most recent book, and it's called The Big Boss Man. I'm going to show you what this looks like. Looks like one of my ancestors here, and we're going to find out who exactly that man is. But this is a great book here, and Joe's going to tell us a little bit about the theory behind the book and the theme. It's called Big Boss Man: My Adventures in Mismanagement, and I'm sure we've all had a little bit of that. Joe, what's this book all about?
Well, the premise is pretty simple. It's about the bosses I've had, and I broke it up into 3 different eras. My high school years, I started working when I was 15 at Monty's Grill.
Right on Woodward there.
Yeah, right on Woodward.
By the motel, okay.
And then into my college years, and then into my professional career. And it was one of the books, as I wrote it, it was very cathartic. I learned a lot. But I think it's something everyone can relate to. Because, I found out, I started working when I was in high school because I needed money, and, I wanted to have spending money, and there was no, career in mind. It was like, hey, I need to get a job to make some money, and then how you go from that into your you go through college and then into your professional career, and how those motivations change. And it's really a lighthearted look, but at the end of every section is a so what did I learn. So there's a little life lesson in there.
And I think that's right. It's a life lesson. No matter what we do, we always take something away from every experience, and you've put it together and you've been able to make a little money on it too, I guess. This book is burning up the... Oh, you're so modest. Well, this actually, I did a little research, and it is kind of selling quite well. It's and if people wanted to buy it, it's on all of the websites.
Yeah, it's at Borders and Barnes & Noble or Amazon, and there's even a website, www.bigbossmanbook.com.
Bigbossmanbook.com. Now, I mentioned earlier that maybe we can get another shot at this rather ominous-looking character here on the cover. Did you have to go to New York, southern New York, to find this guy?
No, there's no...
Is this Tony Soprano here? Or could
no SAG actors there. That's actually my dad.
It's your dad.
So there's an ironic twist in that that he would be the effigy of the Big Boss Man.
Now, there's lots of stories in this book about different sorts of mismanagement, and I'm sure we'll save the identities to protect the guilty. But what was your worst job that you ever had?
I would say my worst job was when I had to drive a produce truck one summer for my brother's company, and it was like living in the bizarro world where the time was turned upside down. I was starting at 2 o'clock in the morning and finishing at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and falling
your
asleep.
Day was half over by the time the rest of us were just getting up for work.
That's right. And it was a whole nother world, going down to the produce terminal downtown and the Eastern Market, and I mean it was definitely a life learning experience and made me stay in school.
And you've lived in Royal Oak all your life, and I'm sure you have some tales about some of the different jobs you've had around Royal Oak. You once hung the signs for was it the Royal Oak Music Theater?
No, at the main theater.
At the main theater. Okay.
Yeah, when they used to have the big wrought iron letters, and every Thursday night was time to change the marquee. And of course, I was in high school, and my buddies knew that Thursday night was change the marquee night, and they also knew that Joe was going to be on a giant step ladder about 25 feet above the ground, holding heavy iron letters.
They're not little plastic letters. They're the big
No,
ones.
they were the big heavy iron ones. And as I was hanging them up, they would drive by and try to make as much noise and commotion as possible, see if they could get me hanging off the marquee.
So you were kind of like the Vanna White back then. You had to learn how to spell all the words. Did you have a little cheat sheet?
I never thought of it that way, but okay.
Did you have a cheat sheet in your pocket on how to spell the names of the movies? Or?
Yeah, if the names were too long, they'd have to call someone else in, you know.
Now, maybe you don't want to get into it, but what was one of the better jobs that you've had, and one of the jobs that you really enjoyed in doing?
You know, I spent a number of years working down at Ford, and I had an opportunity to kind of work in the whole product life cycle of the automobile industry. And that was probably the best experience, because I really got a chance, you know, over the course of 5 or 6 years to really see, you know, all the way from design into working in the plants, and then even on the customer service side of things. And that was very rewarding. Actually, I got to work with my dad as well for 2 years, so that on a personal level was really great.
But your dad's not in this book, not in one of the mismanagement.
No, he's not.
People have to read it.
He was the boss man at home.
Okay.
But I learned I would never want to work for him.
Now, Joe, I imagine you draw your material from all sorts of different areas, but it sounds like most of your stuff comes from everyday life, your experiences, your family. Would you have it any other way?
No, and in fact, that's why, I mean, I'm raising my family here. You know, we live in Royal Oak now, and the kids are in Royal Oak schools. And in fact, my kids say, "Is there anyone that doesn't know you?" And I said, "Remember that, because there's always someone watching you."
Well, now that you've been on the Royal Oak show, that they forget about it. Everyone's going to know you
That's
now.
right.
Joe, thank you very much for coming.
Thank you.
Again, it's bigbossmanbook.com, and check these books out. They're great. Thank you very much, Joe.
Join us on the next Royal Oak Show when Carlo visits with Royal Oak corporate citizen Bill Downs, Royal Oak Department of Public Service Superintendent Greg Grassel, from Youth Under Construction David Sawicki, and comedian Connie Ettinger. The Royal Oak Show will return in a moment. Stay tuned.
All right, thank you, and welcome back to the Royal Oak Show. Tonight, our next guest, we have with us another Royal Oak resident and a well-known, in fact, a world-renowned photographer. Without any more delay, or without further ado, as they say, I introduce to you Robert Bruce from Robert Bruce Photography. Robert, thanks for coming in. Have a seat. All right, Robert, I called you Mr. Bruce a little while ago, and you corrected me. That's you don't go by Mr. Bruce, I can tell, right?
A lot of people call me Mr. Bruce, but it makes me feel old, so.
I'm going to call you Robert, if that's okay.
That's great, yeah.
Now, Robert, you are a Royal Oak resident, correct?
That's correct.
And you've been here for how long?
I've lived in Royal Oak about 10 years. I bought my business in Royal Oak in 2000.
And you have your studio on, it's 831 East 11 Mile Road, correct?
Correct. Right across from Hungry Howie's.
But what it sounds like, you don't spend too much time in the studio. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I'm not there very often. I've got a staff that's there, but usually all my jobs are on the road. But I do have a portrait studio built in there where I can do families and kids and headshots and things like that.
Tonight we have on the Royal Oak Show tonight, I think, as I said before, we had a published author before, and now you are a photographer by trade. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And you know, I was checking out your website earlier, and we talked earlier, and I was amazed. I don't know why I was amazed, but I was very amazed at you know, when I said you're world renowned, and I know you're probably kind of modest, you are world renowned. I mean, you do photography kind of. You don't limit it to the Tri-County areas, is that correct?
That's correct. My fiance and I just got back from shooting a wedding in Hawaii a couple weeks ago. I was in Arizona the week before that. And a week from Saturday, we'll be in Miami shooting another wedding out there.
So that sounds like, do you need an assistant at all or anything else?
I got a lot of people on the list, especially for the models, but we actually are booking another one in the Cook Islands, which is out part of Asia. It's about a 20-hour plane ride for next January.
That's a wedding out there.
Yeah, that's
Okay,
a wedding.
Well, I'll be waiting for my invitation.
Yeah.
Before we get into your studio and the people that you've photographed, because it's amazing the list of people that you've actually photographed. Tell us a little bit about Robert Bruce, where you came from, how you got into photography, and how did you end up here? And I don't mean on the Royal Oak Show.
Yeah, well, I got in my car and filled up at the Shell station. Yeah. I actually grew up in Detroit, and I went to Henry Ford High School in Detroit, so I give a shout out to all my peeps out there. And I moved out of there when I was 18. I actually dropped out of high school and went and took my GED and went to Oakland Community College in Royal Oak and minored in photography. So from the time I was 18, I did it more as a love, a hobby, and I never considered doing it as a career because television was my career. And maybe about 10 years ago, I just decided I wanted to do it full time, and from the time I decided to do it, I was booked up solid ever since. So I was really blessed with that. So getting a lot of work, 7 days a week, 15, 16-hour days at least for the last 7 or 8 years.
And you do, again, when we were talking this afternoon, you do mainly weddings, right?
That would be the bulk of my income, but
you also do other things as well.
Yeah, I do like some commercial, Comcast Spotlight. I do a lot of models, a lot of families, anything to do with people. I like to do people.
You seem to be a people person.
Yeah, I like people. I love people, and I do a more photojournalistic style, so I like to capture the reality of the human nature.
So we're not going to see a lot of wax fruits on your
a little wax fruit, yeah,
okay.
Especially in the house. But mainly just I love to do people. I mean, I travel around the world, and I like to shoot scenery for my own personal, just for things to hang up. Like, for instance, Starbucks and Royal Oak, they've hung my work for the last 10 years. So this month I've got stuff from Arizona to kind of bring in the summer, cactus, sunsets, things like that. Last month it was from Thailand and San Francisco, things like that. So
you started out in Detroit, went to Henry Ford High School, graduated from OCC, got your degree, and then you decided to basically take in this hobby, I guess, if you will, the photography.
Yeah,
and
I decided.
You've been booked ever since.
I've been booked ever since. One day I just thought, I'm gonna give the photography a shot, because the television industry was really cutthroat, and raising a family, it was real difficult to stay in the business steady. So the day I started to do the photography, I put a website together. I advertised on the knot.com, and I went from maybe 3 calls a month to 10 a day, and it's been constant ever since.
And we're going to get into that a little later, but you did win a prestigious award from Knot, and that's K-N-O-T, not N-O-T.
Yeah, K-N-O-T, the Knot.
A wedding magazine.
Correct.
Okay, we're going to get into that in a little while, but you've also, other than just shooting weddings, as you say, you've photographed, I think, John Travolta, Tim Allen, you've photographed Congressman Dingell.
I was actually, not to interrupt you, I was.
No, go ahead, because I'm dying here.
I was supposed to shoot John Travolta, Tim Allen, Martin Lawrence. They have a new movie that just came out, and I got a call to shoot their press release when they came into Detroit for the 30th of last month. But I was in Hawaii shooting a wedding, so I had to back out on that job. Which I'm a big John Travolta fan, so that was kind of tough.
But you've also photographed Governor Blanchard.
Blanchard, Granholm, Dingell, every newscaster from Chuck Gatica, Bill Bonds, every single one of those guys, yeah.
And as soon as we come back, we're going to go more into Robert Bruce work. Ladies and gentlemen, stay tuned. We're going to be right back with Robert Bruce from Robert Bruce Photography. To the Royal Oak Show. Seated to my immediate right is photographer Robert Bruce, also a resident of Royal Oak. And we're going to get into the good stuff now about the world-renowned photographer Robert Bruce. All right, no more. I'm taking off the gloves now. I
Okay.
know you're a modest guy and you're kind of quiet, but I want you to tell us from your humble beginnings, so to speak, from right here in Royal Oak, where you live now. You have recently been awarded and selected in a rather prestigious award. Is that correct? Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I was nominated through the Knot magazine. They also have a website. It's the #1 bridal magazine in the United States. And they did a poll for each state for different vendors, being videographers, photographers, anybody in the industry. And they did a poll from previous brides that hired those and current brides that are in the process of. And they took this poll, and through unanimous decision, they apparently voted me as #1 in Michigan, so the best wedding photographer in Michigan, which...
And they're going to be... And they're going to have, that's the Knot magazine, that's, they're going to do a spread, I think you said next month, correct?
Yeah,
So we'll
that
keep
issue will come out. It's going to be called The Best of Weddings through the Knot magazine, and it'll come out the beginning of April.
Well, you photograph the stars, you photograph the politicians, but in talking to you today, you said that your first love is weddings.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, for somebody who is a photographer, you know, that may be, as you said, it might be that pictured as somebody selling out, just doing weddings, but you actually do weddings because you enjoy them. Tell us why you enjoy weddings so much.
Well, the thing I like about the weddings is, you know, I love being around people, first of all. A lot of artists and photographers, it's, you know, they're artists, so they you know, some feel that it might be selling out, shooting a wedding or family, but to me, there's so much art involved with a wedding. Being it's an emotional event. You've got family members that haven't seen each other in a long time, all in one unit, and there's a lot of things going on throughout the day. So as a photojournalist, it's a good opportunity to capture a lot of different aspects of people and emotions. So. And you get a free meal.
Yeah, that's
so,
the best.
Yeah.
But you can't drink until afterwards.
No,
right?
I don't drink. Yeah, you don't want to be you don't want to drink on the job. So
when we talked earlier today, I thought that was really a different outlook on weddings, because as you said, a lot of photographers, they do the weddings because they have to, but you actually enjoy them, and it is a time where people are coming together, they're happy, they kind of forget about all the bad stuff that happens, and I imagine you get a lot of material out of a wedding.
yeah, you know, it's a difficult job to have because it's very strenuous, and there's a time frame involved, and you've got one opportunity to get it right. So there's a lot of pressure involved, but being a photographer for a wedding or a family is like being the family doctor or the family lawyer. Once a family hires you and they like your work, they'll continue to hire you for other events throughout their lives. So I shoot brides, and then when they have children, I photograph their children, and when their children graduate, you know, I'll do their senior pictures. So once you're in with a particular family, then you get to know them real well and spend, you know, years getting to capture and document these family archives that'll last for hundreds of years, which is really neat. So every time you click that button, you just kind of know 200 years from now when one of the grandkids pull it out of the attic and have this family heirloom that's going to last for, you know, generations. It's really neat to be able to, you know,
You strike
capture
me as
that.
the kind of person that you really enjoy being around people, and I'm glad you're on the show tonight, because you really are an example of, again, what Royal Oak is all about. We're going to give your website here, if you don't mind. It's
No, not at all.
robertbrucephotography.com, but before people start logging in and setting up an appointment, I understand you're booked until the middle of 2008.
Yeah, we book up about a year to a year and a half in advance. Families usually within a month or two in advance, but this entire year is booked up. There's a couple Fridays left and one Saturday in December, but we're looking into 2008.
We got a couple, just a brief seconds, but you're getting married yourself,
I am.
and congratulations.
Thank
but
you.
I got to ask you, who's gonna shoot the wedding?
Well, I'm gonna.
You're gonna shoot the wedding?
I'm gonna shoot my own wedding. I'm gonna try to through radio transmitters and new technology.
You talk about this with your fiance?
My fiance Lynn Opperman, who's in the audience. I haven't discussed that with her yet, but
I would give it some
no,
thought.
I think she knows now. So
All right.
Thanks, Carlo.
Well, thank you very
Thank
much for
you.
coming, Robert.
Appreciate
And
it. Thank
ladies and
you.
gentlemen, Robert Bruce walks among us. He's a world-renowned photographer. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for the coming to the Royal Oak Show, and don't forget to tune in next week. Thank you very much once again.
Thank you.